That's right, best. Not the strongest or even the most important to the story. This video dares to ask who is the best character, the most well-written character, the one that everyone finds gripping and can't help but be attached to. We'll tell you who our pick is, but where would the fun be in just rushing to it? We're going to be going down a ranking for this one. You'll find out who we rank number 1 by the time this video ends, so stick around. Let's get going. Number 6 is one of the main trio, Sokka. That's right, we kick off our list with someone who is probably more famous as comic relief than anything, but has a lot more than that going for him. Coming from a background of being a warrior in the Southern Water Tribe, Sokka was left as the oldest male in the village when all of the men, including his father, went off to fight the Fire Nation. That left him in charge, and he ended up haplessly training the tribe's children, but being thrown into the deep end paid off in the end, as he became a fine leader and strategist. Sokka, for all of his flaws, is admirable for being a regular warrior in a series based largely around fighters that can control the elements. He is not a waterbender or a bender of any kind, instead getting by on his wits more often than not. He most notably planned the invasion of the Fire Nation on the Day of Black Sun, this being one of the very few attacks on the Blazing Empire that came anywhere close to achieving victory and gave new hope to the invaders. Number 5 is our main man, the last airbender himself, Aang. What? The protagonist all the way down at number 5? Ha, nah, that probably isn't that huge of a shock actually. When it comes to shows like this, it's actually somewhat rare that people would name the main character as their favorite. Still, Aang is a fine protagonist and as always easy to root for. An extraordinarily brave and cheerful sort, the kid's gone through a lot. He begins the show emerging from an iceberg, having been frozen in his avatar state for 100 years, only to learn that his whole kind had been wiped out. Tasked with an incredible responsibility to bring peace to the world, it'd be pretty understanding if the whole thing just crushed the boy. But despite it all, he managed to remain his goofy and friendly self, making him an inspirational figure as well as an entertaining one. Really, the only thing keeping him from being higher is that he lacks some of the rougher edges that make those in front of him a little more interesting. But purity is kind of his thing, and he does it as well as anyone. Number 4 is your uncle and mine, former crown prince of the Fire Nation, Iroh. We all know the weird uncle trope, right? There's always that one member of the family that's just a bit off, just a little different from the others, and if you can't think of an example, it might just be you. Well, Iroh is that for his family, but the thing is, his family is famous for sheer rage and brutal dictatorship. Conversely, Uncle Iroh is a very laid-back, spiritual sort, a wizened master who has seen it all, and is just trying to enjoy the remainder of his days. In his heyday, he was as powerful as anyone, a former general of the Fire Nation's army with a famous ability to breathe fire. He was called the Dragon of the West after he claimed to have slain the final existing dragons. But in truth, this was a lie that he told to protect what remained of the species. What's key about a character like Iroh and why he's not only beloved but an important part of the show is that from an early onset, he shows that the Fire Nation isn't all bad and isn't irredeemable. You don't want to be going around casting entire countries as antagonists, right? That's not a great message, even though in a war setting, it's also tricky to avoid. But Iroh is the answer for this show, and judging by how much everyone loves him, this seems to have worked. Uncle Iroh is, of course, also a very important figure for Zuko, his nephew whom he took under his wing, becoming the more loving father figure that he always needed in the process. Number 3 is everybody's favorite waterbender, at least for this show, it's Katara. It's fair to say that Katara is one of the most important and central characters in the show, and arguably the true protagonist and perspective point, being that she is the one narrating the whole tale to us the whole time. She is unwaveringly devoted to the Avatar and to the cause, which is simply to bring back the peace that everyone had lost and bring about security for all nations. When Katara lost her mother Kaya, she often found herself trying to fill her shoes, especially when her father was lost as well. That meant being forced to mature much sooner than she should have ever had to, and the fact that she largely pulled it off showed some real resilience. Her skill at waterbending made her a powerful and irreplaceable member of the group, and her strength along with her compassion, maturity, and determination helped make her a role model to young girls everywhere. Her popularity is such that she may have even helped inspire the popular spin-off series Korra, whom she helped train in her twilight years. Number 2 is the only Earth Tribe member on this list, but at least they got a really high ranking. It's Toph. Unquestionably among the most powerful of Earthbenders around during her time, Toph is an incredible force to be reckoned with. A girl with a gritty will and rough exterior, she was born blind. As if the actual vision impairment wasn't bad enough, she was often subject to bullying and condescension for this growing up, and had a pair of over overbearing parents raising her to boot. Over time, she grew a fondness for badger moles, an earthbending animal that also happened to be blind. Inspired by this, she became an earthbender herself and found that she was able to see in a way through the vibrations of the ground. She would become infamous for partaking in earthbending tournaments where she earned the moniker the Blind Bandit, but would leave that life to become Ong's earthbending teacher, a wizened, weary old soul trapped in a young girl's body. She's dangerously witty on top of everything else. It's no wonder that she's become a hit with fans and a mainstay of the latter half of the show. And of course, that leaves us with just one spot left, and you might be able to guess who it is. I mean, you know, process of elimination and all. There's really one massive character we haven't mentioned yet. Number one is, of course, the fiery prince himself, none other than Zuko. Yep, no swerves here, just facts. Zuko might have the most fascinating character arc of anyone in the show. He's just so complicated. Really, that sounds cliche, but it's true, and his backstory can be seen plain as the nose on his face, or more distinctly, the large burn mark over his eyes, which was given to him by his own father in a moment of cruelty. To greatly simplify things, Zuko was raised by a villain to be a villain himself, and was threatened with cruel punishment if ever he tried to renege on this. Per the Fire Lord's will, he spent 3 years using every dirty trick and manipulative tactic he was taught to track down the Avatar, looking to capture him so as to regain his lost honor as Prince of the Fire Nation, as well as regain the respect of his father. With the guidance of Uncle Iroh and the unflinching will of Ong, who only ever wanted to be his friend in spite of everything, Zuko overcame many hardships and came out on the other side a better person for it. In the end, he refused his father's rule, and slowly but surely, quite organically in fact, he turned over to the light side, joining the Avatar and striding to reclaim peace for all nations himself. Everyone's a sucker for both edgelords and well-written redemption stories, and Zuko is both. It's no wonder that he's said to be getting a spin-off movie of his own soon. By the way, we've made another video all about that, so that might be a good one to check out next. But yes, Zuko goes out to show that it's never too late to change for the better, no matter how dark your past or what you've done, and it's always worth it to try to do the right thing. It sounds incredibly cheesy when I say it out loud, but what can I say? Sometimes the truth is cheesy. And that is all the time we have for today. Did you agree with our list? Chances are there's a few selections you'd change. The odds of us matching entirely are slim, but that's perfectly fine. Who would you consider the best character in the show? Is there any particular character that you feel got robbed with a low placing or even missing the list entirely? Be sure to let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and until next time, thanks for watching.